All right, Marfoogle TV live in 3. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. First off, we're going to get right into the news. We have Poland warns that Russia's Putin against crossing its airspace for the Trump summit. Now, remember, the Trump summit, we'll talk about that in a second, is canceled. Again, it said that Poland warned Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday against traveling through its airspace for a summit in Hungary with U.S. President Donald Trump, saying it could be forced to execute an international arrest warrant if he did. Bulgaria, however, would be willing to let Putin use its airspace if the summit is held in Hungary. Remember, this summit has now been canceled. Trump said last week he planned to meet Putin in Budapest as he tries to broker an end to Russia's war in Ukraine. So the whole point of that meeting was to essentially make peace. But that meeting is now canceled. As I said, every single time, it looks like it's going to be peaceful, and then something falls apart. We're going to talk about this and much more in just a second. Again, we'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right. What is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We got a lot of really interesting things to talk about today. But again, that first story, again, Poland warns that they have entered their airspace, or that they're warned against crossing its airspace, for this meeting. Well, that meeting has now been canceled. To cover this, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So Trump does not want to waste the time with this meeting, a wasted meeting.
Yeah, apparently. It seems like, with the lack of, progress that's going to be made. And this was crazy. It's like, he had the meeting with Putin and he was so against Russia. He was going to help Ukraine. And he comes out of the meeting with Putin and he just slaps Zelensky around. No tomahawks for you. You need to give up everything, even though I said you could win it all back. And, and now he's like, well, the meeting's going to be off with Putin. So it's just like a back and forth with him right now. But President Trump said on Tuesday his plan for a swift meeting with Russian leader Vladimir Putin was on hold because he doesn't want it to be a waste of time. It was the latest twist, they call it a twist too. I think it's a twist for sure. In Trump's stop-and-go efforts to resolve the war in Ukraine. The decision to hold off on the meeting in Budapest, Hungary, which Trump had announced last week, was made following a call Monday between Marco Rubio and Secretary or Foreign Ministry Sergei Lavrov. So he doesn't want to have a wasted meeting.
Lori Wolf says he's there too busy tearing down the East Wind. Papa Wheelie, nice to see you here. Candy Meerkat, nice to see you. The markets are on fire. Sell everything and buy your bug out location. I'm not there yet, but I will say this. It's been just absolutely nuts. As far as just everything going on, it's just one thing after another. Thank your mods. Make sure to drop an M in the chat as I popped in earlier. Homestead Creeker, nice to see you. Scrappy Dappy Doo, and so many awesome people in the chat. And then says, that's really special. At Angelo Perfelli, I've known a few Italian Americans like you before. Got some Italian in the chat. Of course, represent Italian and Norwegian here. All right. Let's get back into it. And again, this meeting was canceled. What is up with the flip-flops with the president? Obviously flip-flops are looked at as a bad thing. Every president has been called out. When they flip-flop on a subject like this, it's hard to know. But this is so confusing because it is such an obvious and blatant flip-flop from week to week. It's been like, hey, you can take back everything, to then we're not giving you this. You should just give up now. I mean, it really is very, very odd. And then the next story, burning object found in Australian desert likely fell from space. Now, there's lots of spooky stuff happening too because it's October, or maybe it's just because it's October that they're covering specifically creepy stuff. But they said that a burning object was found in the Australian desert. A large chunk of burning detritus discovered in the Pilbara Desert of Western Australia appears to be space junk that re-entered Earth's atmosphere, the Western Australia Police Force has announced. Mine workers alerted emergency services after discovering the mystery object on October 18th on a remote access road about 18 miles from the mining town of Newman. A multi-agency investigation involving the police force and Australian Space Agency and the Department of Fire and Emergency Services is now underway. Although a conclusive diagnosis has been yet to be made, initial investigations all point to the object being a part of a spacecraft. It literally looks like a bathroom hand dryer. So maybe, I don't know, but it is quite odd. Dex, did you notice this thing looks very...
Yeah.
It looks funky though. It looks weird.
I mean, if you saw that in your backyard, burning and on fire and metallic looking object, it looks kind of weird. Like,
what part is that?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of speculation, like where it could have come from, or what piece of rocket, like the Zheling rocket. Some say it was the fourth stage of the Zheling rocket that launched from China in September, but nobody knows. I mean. Presumably it's carbon. They said it was made out of carbon material, so presumably it's made here in Earth and not from another planet, but certainly fell from the sky above. And normally we don't see this. Like, you see it enter, but 9 times out of 10, it's going to land in the ocean. We don't have a lot of land on Earth. It's all water. The majority of it's water. So majority of stuff just hits the water and you never see it. If it makes it to the ground, it doesn't burn up in the atmosphere. So as they tell us, but it's possible something might land in your backyard, especially as more and more stuff starts falling from the sky.
I don't know. I think I might have found it. It's the guy from WALL-E. I think it's I don't know what his name is. In fact, it might be one or the other. Both look like it very well could be it. Again, look at that. What is that? A giant coin purse or something? I don't know. What is your guess? Let me know in the comments down below. But here's one thing. You would think that this would be something that they could immediately decipher what it is. If it's the fourth stage from a rocket, I don't really understand. I don't know how rockets are built. I'm not a rocket scientist. But if you are, let me know. What part of the rocket would that be? Its fanny pack? I don't know. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. This is a device that will protect you in the event of an electromagnetic pulse attack or a Carrington-level event from the sun. This is a device that can be easily wired into your vehicle in less than 10 minutes. You don't need to be a mechanic. You don't need a handyman to do this. You can do this yourself. It's red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, green to ground or a part of your chassis, just part of the side of the engine compartment, and then you're done. MarfoogleNews.com/EMP, and then make sure to use that code MARF for $50 off per device, and that, of course, stacks on top of any other sale that is going on. You can get them for your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, including the Energy and the Bug Out XP, whichever way you go in that direction, and, of course, your home. They now have Starlink versions. This is the same company and the same tech that builds these for, of course, you've got the Department of Homeland Security, Department of War, FBI, you've got the Air Force. And again, this is not something you can buy in the store. You can't go to Fred Meyer and get this. This is a surge protector on crack that is also literally on a rocket flying in space. So this is not your average surge protector. All right. And then let's move on to the next story, which is scientists issued chilling warning as the interstellar visitor slips behind the sun tomorrow. Dex, do you want to talk about what the scientists said?
Well, look, the big scary part about this is what happens when it's no longer visible. We're not going to be able to track it easily from Earth. There may be other devices out there that may be able to pick it up and continue to track it, and obviously something will. But the question is, if this was intelligent, if this was on a mission, if this was to do something different, it's going to start happening as it gets away from the eyeballs, which is Earth, that could be looking at it, and hides behind the sun. It's going to be for a short period of time as it travels by there. It also has the opportunity to do one of those. I don't know if there's a technical term for it, but it's like a slingshot maneuver where it can realign its trajectory. If it's natural, it will have a little bit of a curvature to the change of its trajectory, and they know what that is. They know what that would normally look like, and that's what they expect. If it comes out the other side and it's still doing that, well, all the more reason to think it's not some sort of intelligent ship or intelligent type of device. But if all of a sudden it doesn't follow the standard trajectory and it's doing something different as it comes out, well, then that's obviously a very clear sign that it is using the gravitational pull of the sun, which would be a normal type of event when you're traversing large distances to sort of brake, steer, or turn. To use that gravitational
Dex, this
pull.
is miles wide, right?
Yeah, this thing's huge. So this is all coming from Avi Loeb, the Harvard professor who talks about it. He's talking, about the solar conjunction that starts tomorrow. And, I watched a recent interview with him. He was talking about like he wants to create this new, and they've already called it the Loeb scale, which is when they're looking at an object, like this, and they don't know what it is on a scale of 1 to 10. Like 10, we know for sure it's made of material that's not from, it's not man-made, but it's some sort of intelligent type material, versus a 1, meaning it's more like a comet, and we can clearly tell it's got a tail and it's got all of the attributes of the comet. And what are the points in between? And this is somewhere in between, because there's a lot of things in here that they still aren't 100% sure on. And that's why he gets the opportunity to speculate on the unknown. And that's really what they're doing. They don't know for sure. So therefore, when you have an unknown in science, it's wide open to say it can be anything, and we should look for any possible scenario.
Bill Button says that's all fake. Stop paying attention to that nonsense. Oh, I don't blame you for having doubts or even being frustrated with the coverage on this thing, because they've said it's all sorts of things, right? They've said it's possibly a mothership. If it's a mothership, the fact that we're talking about it seems quite silly. But at the same point, what if this is something else? What if there is that small chance that there is something out there, right? What really kind of I guess grinds my gears is that we've talked about for years that there may be something on its way that they would know about that we wouldn't, right? That a lot of the actions that the leaders of the world have taken would make a whole lot more sense if there was some sort of impending doom that was coming that we are just not at liberty to know, right? As far as the DART mission, you've got the Hammer mission, you've got Osiris Rex, Osiris Apex, you've got, of course, Hayabusa 1 and 2. You've got all these missions dedicated to possibly veering a comet off of, off course. This is a mile-long. This is a extinction-level event going behind the sun, right? If it's true. And at that point, too, the predictive programming, like Don't Look Up, even in his trailers, very creepy. When you look at the connection between Adam Kay, the producer, that was directly connected to actual NASA doing that DART mission. They did, co-promotion on the movie and on the DART mission at the same time as saying, oh, no, it's actually an allegory for the climate, right? They said, oh, this is all about the climate, that people, don't look up, people are avoiding it, which made people immediately, just totally sidestep that movie. But that movie used a lot of like real things. Adam McKay actually did real life, true life stories. That was his what he's won awards for. So his specialty, at least if you're looking at somebody, you're going to look at what they've won awards for, was doing movies that are true to life. And in his trailer, he freaking puts, this is based on a true story that hasn't happened yet, right? A lot of people turned off Don't Look Up. I think Don't Look Up is actually a masterpiece, and you may go, oh, well, that explains a lot. But I thought that movie was a masterpiece. At the same time, Dex couldn't take, I mean, they had so much of that, cultural just back and forth BS in there, and they really did try to offend in a way. But again, and a lot of people say the same thing as Dex, like it was just too much. But that movie made me wonder, do they know something is on its way? And is this the mothership thing? Is that a distraction from the fact that it's miles wide and that it potentially can go through a keyhole and hit Earth or something? Mind you, they've also now said that there's also another asteroid that is possibly going to hit the moon. If you remember, all of YouTube shut down and people said that it was because there was an officer, a high-ranking officer that was doing a live stream. This is, again, not my words. This is all of the internet went nuts about this. One of my viral videos was just covering it. And it was an officer that was saying that, hey, we're not worried about the Earth getting hit. They actually know about, in a few years, something hitting the moon. Remember, this is before any official story about anything hitting the moon came out, and it said something is going to hit the moon, and it's going to knock the moon out of orbit, and then that will affect, the Earth. Waves will crash, and tidal waves and all this. And then the gentleman, supposedly in this video, gets pulled away, and the stream goes dark, and then all of YouTube went down. This is what people claim. When it came back on, drama alert, everybody covered this. It was one of the first global YouTube outages, and some said that it was because they were trying to clear the servers of any evidence of that video, if anybody had recorded it, who had watched it, whatever. It doesn't matter. Fast forward, you now have this piece that potentially could hit the Earth. They actually said, oh, it's a 1 in 300, then it was 1 in 200, 1 in 100, then it was 1 in 35, and then they're like, oh, no, we actually watched it for longer. No, it's not going to hit Earth. And then a couple days later, they go, actually, there's a good chance it will hit the moon. And I was just like, what? I was floored by that. You have people like Jeff Zuckerberg buying frickin' $270 million bunkers. You have gold being bought like there's no tomorrow, literally. And then you have this miles-wide object going around the edge of the sun. And meanwhile, all of us are told that, there's nothing to see here. People think this is the distraction when there's all of this other stuff that really is taking up most of people's, imagination. This has certain people kind of enthralled with it, but it's really not the front page every day. It's actually kind of the back page. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to share our show out if you like it. If this rings with you, then please make sure to share this out. All right. And then Pentagon clamps down on military interactions with Congress. We will tell you what we think this is. And Dex, I agreed with you. I think that they, just like they are telling that the reporters in the Pentagon to get out, I think this may have something to do with that, to clamp down the messaging or anything so no secrets get out.
Yeah, it's clearly a wartime maneuver. It is about, while it'll be spun as, oh, this is the administration trying to, eliminate or push away Congress or keep people from knowing what they're doing or keep the press out, as all the press, left when they didn't like the new rules. Well, no, this is because the Department of War, which just changed its name from Department of Defense to Department of War, is getting ready for war. And this is what it does when it gets ready for war. So the Department of Defense, the Department of War now has a special personnel that any of them will have to coordinate all interactions with Congress through a central legislative affairs office. They created a single office, and they said everything for Congress that Congress wants or needs is going to go through that one flow. It's not going to be open season where anybody can go all over, just like the press used to do, just go all around and go in and out of all of the Department of War. Everything's going to be funneled in. And so they have a greater control over it. And they can, sure, they may streamline it to some extent, but I think it's really about being prepared for war and making sure that they have a tighter control over the information.
Yeah, as far as this goes, any of the realistic kind of answers for this are bad. So talking about what we were just talking about, just say offside crazy theory that there may be something headed towards Earth and it's bad and they know about it and we don't, and they're possibly planning a DART mission to knock it off course. Something like that, they wouldn't want the secret out. Obviously, we've seen all of the predictive programming around, what would they do in the case of any disaster? And in most, they wouldn't tell the civilians. Otherwise, they are clamping on this because they do not want it leaking out that they are about to go to war, that they are about to invade Venezuela, take out a leader, that we are about to go into World War III. Remember, they restricted the access of all of the reporters in the Pentagon. They gave them a letter. They said, sign this. You're basically signing and you're agreeing that you will basically get permission for anything that you share. You can't share anything that you hear. You don't have free reign of the Pentagon anymore. You have to stay in this certain area. That tells me something massive is going on. Of course, they called all of the generals back to a meeting about 3 weeks ago. That was, just taken as a big speech to bump up, Hegseth's ego. I think it's because they're turning it into a lethal fighting machine, right? They are literally getting ready for war. Everything he has said, he has quoted a million times at this point in every interview that, this is life or death, that this is urgent, this has to be done right now, that, this is something that will happen before World War II. It's happening again. It's World War II happening again. World War II. This is what we did during World War II, before World War II, which we won. So it's pretty clear to me that something is off here, obviously, and almost every single time that our community believes something is off, it's off. So Phil said the sky is falling. At some point, it actually might, and I think that certain times people always they're overly afraid of all of this stuff. When
it did in Australia.
It did, yeah. It literally fell, and it's probably a chunk of a Wall-E robot. But at the same time, like people that say fear this, fear that, if you're afraid, then I would say don't watch scary movies. You're a grown adult. Don't watch scary movies. If it makes you anxiety ridden, don't watch Scream, right? If you don't like scary news, don't watch the scary news channel. Change the channel. Ask mama for the remote. All right. And then let's see here. Colombia's president muses about getting rid of Trump in menacing interview as the drug feud intensifies. Dex, do you want to go over what happened here?
Well, I mean, some are considering this like he's suggesting they take him out. But yeah, Colombia President Gustavo Petro mused about, quote unquote, getting rid of President Trump in a shocking interview as the bitter feud over the crackdown from our administration intensifies on Colombia and Venezuela's drug cartels. But obviously, as we reported yesterday, over the weekend, Trump had threatened to close up the killing fields in Colombia, as they're called, announcing he was going to slash the U.S. subsidies to the Latin American country. And then Petro accused the U.S. of murdering over 15 attacks against the alleged drug boats. So now they're trying to say that all those drug boats were not drug boats; they were just normal citizens that were just attacked. So now you got a he said, she said scenario.
Well, those 50 cals, the 50 cal guns on the back, like you have to understand, you can get those in those countries really easy. Like you go to the local 7-Eleven, right? There's 50 calibers right there. So I believe them. It was a civilian boat.
It's standard fishing gear. I mean, that's how you fish with 50 cal.
Oh,
load it in
there's
the water
dinner.
And then throw the net out.
Exactly.
The lead's good for you too.
Yeah.
But anyway, everybody's up in arms over his, dramatic statement.
I ate a lot of lead.
Maybe that it's time to get rid of Trump. So, of course, that's not as bad as he could have said it, but people can read between the lines. And he can obviously deny all day long that he meant what he meant by saying get rid of. But anyway, that's the story. So the feud is now heating up with Colombia. So as much as we're got the ships down there, ready to take on Venezuela, it's not. Colombia's just next door. And I'm sure we could just call the CIA and they probably could straighten out Colombia. Haven't they been involved in Colombia for decades?
Yep. CIA and three-letter agencies all over. And yeah, people saying lead is bad for you. I led the way. I mean, it's such a good word in general. Why would you say it's bad? What U.S. forces face as Venezuela puts Russian armed military on wartime alert. So, and by the way, great point that somebody pointed out. All of the stuff that we just talked about, all of this is during the shutdown where NASA and many of the telescopes don't have funding. Very, very great point. And I'm sorry I forgot that. It is, quite convenient timing. And everybody's saying, oh, well, this is, now it's food stamp riot, which I think that they're going to pay for the food stamps. They're going to put the food stamps out before. I mean, that's a guaranteed food riot, right? That is a riot. When I know, how much people depend on their SNAP benefits, especially, people may not agree with that they exist, but they do exist and people are dependent on them. When you, and most of the people that are on them, they're unemployed. You get a bunch of people that are unemployed and hungry and no longer can get their money or their food stamps. That's bad. That's why I think it's going to be fixed beforehand. But is that the distraction? Is that so everybody starts freaking out, fearing about that? Meanwhile, there's these really wacky things that nobody would ever think are true. Those might actually be the real thing. And this is the distraction, right? But yeah, what U.S. forces face, and it says the 10,000 U.S. troops operating in the Caribbean were sent to interdict drug boats. Remember, 10,000 troops, 8 warships are all there to interdict these speedboats, right? I believe it. Just like that first day I was like, oh, that's really good for you. I was like, I'm all in on this, okay? I believe that it actually requires probably 50,000 troops and probably 12 more warships to interdict these speedboats. I mean, that just makes common sense, right? For American commanders, that means, again, they said that, but Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, September 30th, state of emergency fundamentally changed what they're facing. A military on full wartime alert, equipped with the Russian air defenses and anti-ship missiles, backed by what Maduro claims is a militia of over 8 million members. For American commanders, that means every operation and incident now happens under the threat of Venezuelan retaliation, a situation the current force is not ready to handle. Now, mind you, Venezuela is not going to throw the first punch, right? But I bet you we're going to see a story in the next 3 weeks. If this is a war in Venezuela or if this is a Maduro takeout, then you're going to see Venezuela do something back. So then we can have full, go in there and take them out. Remember, this is not a war. It's an armed conflict that Congress doesn't even have to be involved in because these are terrorists. And they're saying Maduro, the president of an entire country with a military and militia, is a terrorist-connected individual. So therefore, we just need to worry about our homeland security. So it is a good way that they can get around the Congress. And mind you, they just clamp down on Congress. They don't have to go through all of these bureaucratic, trails to get things done at this point. And they're literally taking the reporters out of the Pentagon. There is now one left. And I think that was with what, Newsmax or something? ONN.
ONN.
Yeah. What does that stand for again?
One American News Network or something like that.
Yeah, One News Network, I think.
Yeah. Well, look, here's the other thing. Think about this. If we intentionally go there to overtake or overthrow or unseat Maduro or just engage them militarily, the U.S. military is going to get a firsthand experience with our warships and our planes against Russian equipment. We've had it indirectly with some of our Patriot systems and some of our other missile systems over, like the THAAD and all that, over in Ukraine. We've watched the drone war evolve, but this will give us our firsthand experience against Russian equipment. Now, the same goes for Putin. Putin probably will be very happy if Maduro engages the U.S. because he'll get to see the firsthand experience of all of this Russian equipment, because Venezuela is all Russian equipment. How does it stand up? How does the missile system stand up? How did the changes and the updates that they've done to their defense equipment against U.S. ships or U.S. stealth fighters or U.S. rockets or U.S. missiles or anything. What is the outcome of that? And I think for both sides, it's a major test. And Venezuela is just the fodder stuck in the middle. And the benefit is we get to kick Maduro out, or Maduro wins and Putin gets a stronger ally.
Yeah, indeed. And by the way, Charles Goki and some bad lieutenant, both thank you for the supers, letting us know about the show notes. I'm assuming, Dex, you've already fixed that, I'm assuming.
I'll look.
They said that the show notes page is down. If it is, it will be up in 2 seconds. So thank you guys for letting us know if there was any issue, or the link that we put down below was off by a letter or something. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. And thank you for supporting Independent in general. Again, lots of awesome people in the chat. We've got Third Timothy. We've got Rodney Ramsey. We've got Rosemary Griffin. Lots of R's there. Red Amber Podcast Alert. Bob said to Marge that the cat was now out of the bag. I like it. Randy Man, thank you. I don't do drugs. Drugs do me. Joking, no drugs, no problems. Rambo Mullet, we've got the U.S. is upset about Venezuela making deals with Russia and China and for having huge stockpile of oil. Very well may be. Susie Q, nice to see you. And Colby Wilson, Tiges NZ, Retro Roman Doomsday and Simulation Channel, nice to see you as well. Sean Barker here, nice to see you. And of course, Black Cat Comms, nice to see you as well. Who put the cat in the bag, says Freedom Nugget. I don't know. But Pete is on their way, and Steve too. All right, and before we move on, make sure to go check out Energy. This is our recommendation for a solar generator. Again, you can always go to Amazon and get whatever cheapo, absolute crap generator, or you could get one of the best generators on the market, reinforced with steel, built like things used to be. It has a heater built into every battery, so it can actually run in extreme cold temperatures. It is weather and water resistant. It is absolute beast of a generator. It is also front-loaded in the U.S. In fact, they had to do that under the specific specifications of the U.S. Army because they won the SBIR Phase 2 contract. That means that these are shipping out to the Army, and that is why we have not sold them. There is a limited batch to civilians. And again, when that is gone, when the buy now button is gone, you will no longer be able to buy that head unit. As far as the batteries, you can buy one or you can buy 40. They all connect together. They snap in with a clamping system that is absolutely a beast itself. Go over to marfugglenews.com/energy and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Remember, these are available now. You don't have to wait 6, 7, 8 months like people did a few years ago when the Army contract first started. So again, marfugglenews.com/energy, code Marfoogle. But again, once they are gone, they are gone. All right. And thank you, Nat, and thank you, JPass, and thank you, Michigan Lifestyle. Love to see you guys. And Bobby Sue and Chance, thank you for modding in the chat. Top analyst says China is playing a key role in the price of gold going through the roof, and he's got the data to prove it. Well, I won't say it. I told you so. I knew this was a big chunk of China, and again, now they're saying that they can prove it. Dex, do you want to talk about how they can prove it and what's being proven?
Well, yeah. So China's gold stock level, the warehouse stocks on warrant, if you go under that chart, you'll see just a massive buy, a massive amount of increase there. And he's talking about their financial futures are exchanging the gold level stock that China has soared through 2025. Bloomberg data shows that household demand for gold exchange ETFs also surging, but indicates are far beyond whatever the People's Bank of China is doing. The first chart I was talking about is just one green line that shoots straight up. I don't know if you see that one. It's one below the one you're showing now. It's the second chart.
There we go.
I apologize. Yeah. This is something we've been saying. We've been reporting on the amount of gold that China's been investing. And I think that that's clear that when they do that, the more they buy, the more they're hedging their bet against the dollar, the more they're investing in an asset that they know is going to help survive and weather the storm. It's going to help them get through sanctions. It's going to help them get through any type of financial crisis as the economics of the world change. And I think that's what they're banking on, is a change in the economics. Obviously, they would like to see BRICS come out on top. Obviously, they would like to see, their own currency be the stronghold. All of those are not going to happen overnight, but at the same time, the amount of investment they're making in gold is one, it's significant. They still haven't caught up to the US. I mean, if you look at the level of gold the US owns, it's far more than China, but the amount that they have bought and the amount that they have now is very significant.
Yeah, as far as China buying this amount of gold, it's a pretty obvious sign that they are obviously preparing for something. Again, soon global central banks will hold more gold than US dollars. Again, just to repeat that, soon global central banks will hold more gold than US dollars. All right.
That's a scary thought when you think about it.
Yeah, it's terrifying. That's creepier than any ghosts in a cemetery, which I just want to remind you guys, make sure to go over and check out Marfoogle News, where we did a video reacting to some of the crazy Tesla spotting ghosts in cemetery stuff. And then, of course, also the food stamp story is over there as well. All right, and then Trump is to buy tiny 1 million barrels for SPR as China unleashes record oil stockpiling. So another stockpiling sign that something is about to go down. Badly beating down oil jumped, if only briefly, on a Bloomberg report that the Trump administration plans to buy 1 million barrels for the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve, taking advantage of the low oil prices to begin filling the depleted stockpile. Remember that it is depleted. It ended up being depleted or nearly depleted during all of the former drama that we covered. The Energy Department intends to announce Tuesday that it's seeking oil for delivery in December and January using a portion of the $171 million from the president's signature tax and spending law that provided for crude purchases, according to an agency official. West Texas Intermediate, which is down about 30% since its peak in mid-January and traded at $58 a barrel, which is crazy, near the lowest since 2021, staged a modest bounce only to sink after a knee-jerk reaction was processed. As you can see in this graph, it actually had that just basically a freaking drop and kickback. Trump has vowed to refill the oil reserve, which has a maximum capacity of 700 million barrels. It is currently at about 408 million barrels, over halfway, but the administration has limited funds to buy more. Unfortunately, just 1 million here and there won't do anything in the grand scheme of things. Meanwhile, China has been aggressively adding millions of barrels every month to its SPR. So while we are having problems getting the funding, our government is freaking shut down right now to get more oil into our reserve, they are buying millions and millions of barrels. Tell me what you think that's about. Yeah. Dex, that's obvious sign that they're planning something big.
The state oil companies, including Sinopec and CNOOC, are going to add at least 169 million barrels of storage across 11 sites during 2025 and 2026. That's 169 to our one.
169 million to our one. So just want to make sure you guys know that. And then crisis point, this food stamp story may very well be the biggest distraction ever, or it could be the biggest disaster, depending on which. There was a great letter that was sent to us by Able-Bodied, the same Able-Bodied that called in and gave us her full experience of living through an actual martial law during Hurricane Katrina. That Able-Bodied talked about the potential for a huge disaster and about what she learned in college and in studies as far as, you know, when you take food stamps suddenly away from people, it can cause an absolute disaster. In fact, it will cause a very fast disaster if it happens. Now, you guys already know my opinion. I stated I believe no matter what, something will happen. It will probably happen at midnight at the last minute, but something will happen and they will pay the food stamps. Even if they don't get the government running like previous times, they will get the food stamps done. But this is different than other times because we are actually seeing that some of the states that what they did before was they pre-funded it before the government shutdown, which was imminent, and people still got their food stamps and then after it was done, by the time the government shut down, it didn't affect them. This time it's different because they did not do that. They are also actually letting people know that their food stamps will end. So that is a very creepy point here. And it is something that would be a very easy way to cause chaos in the United States. And it is a very scary thought to think. Whether you agree with food stamps in general or welfare of any type, this is something that people should really pay attention to. I wouldn't worry too much about it, but at the same time, it is a potential event that could be worse than any that we've seen. Stephen McMahon says, I think China is going to move on Taiwan, maybe within the next few weeks. If not, then in spring, there's a window of opportunity that is closing. So Stephen McMahon, like everybody said, I think it's, the weather and all of that plays into it. Like you said, it could have been right now. This would have been the time. Or it's going to be, next year. But it's going to be next year. That's my opinion. They're going to move on Taiwan when the weather's right. The next available window is, I think, when they're going to do it.
Right.
Dex, the snap thing, this is a really horrendous kind of event that is potentially one of the worst we've seen if it happens.
I think we're coming out of the No Kings rally. I think you're seeing one side that looks at it and says, hey, we have a lot of support. Or thinking they do. I think that what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks or week is there's going to be a quick measure of the environment of what people believe is the cause of the government shutdown and how much they can control that narrative and who gets out in front of that narrative in not just the media, because the media is part of it, but the media is sort of dying, right? And it's the social media. And it's the rest. And if one side can make sure that they're way ahead of it, then that will probably determine the outcome. And I say that because I think if the opposing side to the current administration feels like they have control of the narrative to point the finger at the shutdown as being fully and solely the responsibility of the administration and that side of the divide that's in our country, and they feel that they can control that narrative through the population, then they're going to use this opportunity to completely, throw a catastrophe on the final, tournament of Trump, and that will be the end of it. And that's how they would look at it. But if they don't have control of that narrative, and it looks like it's their fault that the government shut down, then they're going to cave in and they'll do what you say, Adam, which is okay. We'll fund the government and Snap won't lose, but. It wouldn't put it past. I wouldn't put it past the political divide of this country to use this as a weapon, as it's been done before.
I was just watching a show last night. One of the first episode of what is it called? Oh, the Lazarus Project. If any of you have seen that, there's a tiny quote, and the guy goes, "Oh shoot." I don't want to mess it up, but he essentially says, and he even says cooing, he says the best kind of coup is the one where people think that they came up with the idea, or the cooing, and he literally uses cooing. He's like, I don't know if that's the plural sense of coup, but when the cooing is being done, when you make them think that they are the ones who thought it up, right? That the coup, that make people literally think, oh yeah, we came up with this idea to coup. And it seems like a lot of that happens in the U.S. where people are being manipulated into thinking that, whatever they want you to think. And then you literally think like, oh, I'm the one who thought this up. When really everybody's getting manipulated. The right, the left, doesn't matter what side you're on. You're being manipulated. That's why you have to remind yourself constantly to step back and to look. I do it every day. I wonder about my own beliefs. They say the smartest person in the room is the one who can change or admit when they're wrong and ask, what did I miss? And that's where we depend on you guys as the community. We're constantly learning and figuring out what we're doing in the future and what we can do. And again, this is a really important time to be doing this with each other. So, Angela Perfelli, thank you so much for the support. I appreciate that. Foogle me this, foogle me that. Thank you, Stephen McMahon. Thank you, Some Bad Lieutenant. Thank you, Charles Goki. Again, as my Springer final thought, I hope that all of you are getting food and water prepared, because I do believe we are heading into some bad times. That does not mean that we will not get through these hard times. I think we will absolutely pull through. Some of us will pull through comfortably. Don't be afraid of what's coming. Know about it. Thank you, Dex. I appreciate you. Everything you've done tonight.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And make sure to go check out Jace Medical if you don't have antibiotics on hand. This is a quick and easy recommendation for you. Go over to marfooglenews.com/Jace. You can get a handy kit discreetly to your door of antibiotics. Again, they also have an add-on list. You can add on things like, hey, you've got an asthmatic in the house. You can say, hey, board-certified doc, can I get some, albuterol? That is on the add-on list. You most likely will be able to get it thrown into your kit. So go over to marfooglenews.com/Jace and code MARF. Make sure to ask about the add-on list, and then also check about Jace Daily, which is where you can actually get a 12-month extended supply of your prescription meds. A few of the Foogle family members have actually been able to get a year of their detrimental medications, which, again, whether you like being on them or dependent on them or not, or whether you like big pharma or not, some of you understand that if you go without your medication, you're going to be in trouble. So again, that's a good service to check out. marfooglenews.com/Jace and code MARF. Jace Case and Jace Daily. All right, you guys, have a wonderful night. Thank your mods by dropping an M in the chat. And thank you so much for everybody that made it today to the show. Lord Andrew, Wild Strawberries, Priscilla F., and so many more. Thank you, and thank you. Peter Birdsall, and I have to read this. It's your cuckoo. That's absolutely right. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Over on Jams. Sorry, gosh, I was super close to the mic. It was practically tapping me in the eyeball. We're going to be thanking our top supporter tonight, which is Angelo Perfelli.